In this episode, I'm sitting down with Steve, the co-founder of B Wellness. But Steve isn't just a brand owner, he's a system builder. He runs a successful B2C brand that consumers love. And he runs Stedico, a B2B turnkey solution that helps other entrepreneurs launch their own supplement brand. He has seen the industry from every angle: the consumer, the manufacturer, and the business owner. We break down 3 things you need to know. First, the massive silent opportunities in the health and wellness market right now. Second, the difference between renting an audience and owning your brand IP. And lastly, the real truth about scaling a business in South Africa. This is the first of many deep dives. I'm Shabir, co-founder of Livespace, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Steve, great to have you.
Good to be here.
To kick off, looking at your entrepreneurship journey, I see B Wellness House, Stedico. How did this all start?
Sure. So I think always been entrepreneurially driven and excited to, I guess, pursue strategy in my own passions. But I think where it initially started was being actively involved in sport. At the time, I was pursuing a rugby career when I first sort of started my journey, and then with secondary to the training comes nutrition and all that kind of stuff, and just developed a love for the human anatomy and how it has the ability to heal itself and recover and perform at peak performance, and those holistic solutions. So that's sort of where the passion initiated, and it's been a journey to find in the South African market, and then tapping into the international market, premium ingredients, and just finding a love for, I guess, cutting through the fluff and bringing the truth back in the wellness space.
Yeah, that's so important now, especially when there's so much of noise. So you mentioned 12 years you've been in entrepreneurship. Yeah. So where did this 12 years start?
Again, we were, I was playing rugby, and at the time my mom was so both my parents are entrepreneurial as well. Okay. So I've sort of grown up with that and been involved, thankfully, in the conversations, whether it's just hearing them on the phone or whatever the case is. So you pick up on things. And at that time I kind of, I guess, got full of asking my parents for money. Yeah. So while you're at varsity, you need some extra spending money. So we looked at starting our own business. It was initially a supplementation business, sort of your more gym-orientated stuff, whey proteins, pre-workouts, things like that. At the time, we called it Beasts Unleashed Nutrition. Right. We had one of our friends was a tattoo artist, and he sort of drew up these cool sort of, call them figurines or designs that each one attached to a different supplement. And we pursued that, and eventually it just grew from there. We started making contacts in the manufacturing plants and things like that. So, we developed a formula of a weight loss product initially 12 years ago that worked really well. Yeah. And, so bought over my mom's database that she had been selling to her clientele in the past. She had also sold a weight loss product. So that sort of kickstarted the business, and we grew it from there. It was not retail, more of a direct sort of marketing, multi-level marketing sort of platform where we had our agents, they sold to sub-agents, and then they would sell to the end user. And it scaled a lot quicker than we had expected. So with that comes some school fees, I guess, in terms of scaling. And it developed from there. I think our knowledge base grew, our network grew, our contacts within the manufacturing space grew, and it's now developed into more holistic solutions, not necessarily targeted at weight loss, and not it's not targeted at weight loss anymore, really. It's more targeted at the body being fully holistic and functioning well from on all levels, you know. So
no, definitely. And just to zoom in on B Wellness, I know the motivation behind it was personal. I think we spoke about your mom and your wife.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. So again, at the time we had our own business in that space, and it's quite an interesting one because B Wellness is currently a female first supplement brand or wellness brand, you know. And 3 male directors. All 3 of our moms at the time were going into menopause and experiencing hot flashes and brain fog. And secondary to that, my wife has PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome. And so basically we wanted to find something that, number one, we trusted the ingredients, trusted that it would work, and really saw a need in the South African market for a full holistic solution, because it's not just your thyroid or your adrenal gland. It starts in the gut and in the detoxification process of your liver and kidney. And if these are out of whack, then essentially you're just covering 10% of the side effects and the experiences that they're going through. So in a nutshell, the brand was birthed from a place of love, wanting to help our loved ones. And it kickstarted from there. I mean, for instance, my wife fell pregnant on honeymoon, where PCOS is supposed to limit fertility.
Right.
We heard less from our moms about hot flashes and brain fog, and it's really been fun and educational walking that road, because in our relationships with our wives and our moms, even, we can almost relate more now. You know, you're almost forced or put into a position where you're taking the time to hear the stories and listen. And the amount of women we've been able to help through this has been super rewarding. And at the end of the day, they are the nurturers of the home. So essentially it's about helping them, and eventually it might grow into a male segment of it and a children's segment of it. And you can't forget the pets. We all love our pets. So, but for now, we're truly focusing on bringing quality
ingredients
and covering all the bases in the female health space.
That's so important. And I think, you know, with, like you mentioned, your mom, your wife, it's personal, right? And you guys are seeing firsthand whether it's working. And I think that's so important, because who better to test it than you know, the people that you guys love the most.
Exactly.
Just some interesting facts there, right? For PCOS, the World Health Organization estimates it affects up to 13% of women. And what's crazy is that only 70% of those women know they have it, right? So literally it's no more niche. Like it's impacting everyone. For gut health, on the other hand, a global study found that 40% of people, almost half the world, suffers from some form of functional gut disorder, like bloating or IBS. So I think it's a massive, widespread problem, right? And I think, you know, it leads me up to the next question. What do you think is fueling this growth? Or the knowledge in this industry when it comes to PCOS, menopause, you know, topics previously that were not really discussed?
I think it's twofold. I think, number one, the focus within that realm and people, I guess, being able to be vulnerable with where they're at currently and being more open. Obviously, your accessibility to information, as much as it brings a lot of fluff, it also brings a lot of knowledge and access to knowledge that we didn't previously have. So I think that's one thing. But there's also a lot of lifestyle factors at play that have influenced this. I mean, from something as simple as dirty air, the air that we breathe, to I think the stat was 70% of the world's antibiotics get sold to the animal industry, of which I don't know what the stat is on sort of a vegan to meat eater ratio now, but we then eat that meat and ingest that meat, and that then affects our gut. So it's constantly under strain and under attack, you know. There's various things like antibiotics or pesticides or whatever the case is. Our body's constantly trying to fight these lifestyle factors. And we believe that that's why nowadays you actually need supplementation to counter that. And then I think it's an interesting one, because for something like PCOS, I mean, we just did a PCOS journey with 2 women who found out quite a while back. And at that point, they said they didn't really have access to information. Thankfully, the world is now sort of putting their eyes onto it and focusing on it, and the education even with specialists and gynecologists and things like that is spreading. So, it's funny. We kind of behind trend often in South Africa. And very often we hear these stories and it seems far off, but there's sort of people within our borders that are having these struggles, you know. In my wife's friend group, I think there's 9 of them, 5 of them have PCOS.
Wow.
All with different struggles because it scales, you know. And you think it's just hormone related, but there's various other factors at play. And thankfully, there is new technology out there that can really help counter it, you know. On our Balance and Energy, there's a specific ingredient that has clinical evidence that it does specifically work for PCOS. And thankfully, there's people with 20 years of experience that are actually harvesting these things and developing new tech to combat this, you know. I think one other thing, is contraceptives play quite a big role because it's years of sort of taking these things that put your body out of balance, and either when they get off the contraceptive, the body then has to balance and regenerate itself, and that takes a while and often needs outside intervention. But it's the world has started focusing more on female health, which I think is a great thing.
Yeah, and I think just social media has amplified that.
Definitely.
You know, watching a video, and we work with a lot of medical professionals, and I mean, they are now creators, right? They're creating content, whether it's on TikTok, Instagram, and what you'd find is they'll speak about these pain points, like you mentioned, these different stages. And what happens is more people reach out to say, hey, like, this is what I'm struggling with. Previously, you probably had to seek or see a medical professional in order for you to get diagnosed. But now you can actually, you know, go onto social media, follow your favorite doctor and get that information. You know, with that being said, the health and wellness industry, I think it's valued at about $5.6 trillion by the end of 2025, right? At the end of this year. With that comes the dangers of fake supplements, fake products. What's your take on that? Because obviously there's the financial component. There's people that are willing to spend money. And what do you think of the dangers of that market?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think with any business there are going to be people that take shortcuts, sadly. So I would advise anyone, whether they're purchasing from us or anybody else, to do the proper research on where the ingredients are sourced. Whether it's consistent. Obviously, it comes at a price point very often. It's probably not the best analogy in the female space, but you wouldn't put cheap fuel in your jet or your Ferrari. But you can buy a new Ferrari, you can't buy a new body. So I think sometimes quality ingredients or quality products or even quality services and lifestyle hacks come at a cost, but very often it's worth it. And very often that's when you see results. So just to be vigilant and do research, like we've said numerous times now, it is accessible. Google, YouTube, ChatGPT, whatever you need to do, find those specialists and ask the questions, you know. Without questions, there's no answers. So actually pursuing the research behind it, you'll come to the right place, you know.
Yeah. Let's pivot towards Stedico. So maybe tell me a bit about the business. I know it's a turnkey solution.
Also, passion. It started with our journey with the struggles of actually getting to the right place, exactly in line with what we just said, finding quality ingredients, finding a manufacturer who is GMP approved, SAPRA registered, everything ticked off, all the T's crossed and the I's dotted. From concept to getting it on the shelf.
Right.
If you don't really know how to go about that, it's quite a challenging process and it can take some time. And so Stedico was developed with the intention of streamlining that, providing a turnkey solution, essentially not wanting to be greedy with the networks we've built, the contacts we've made, the know-how, and actually assisting on that journey and providing help, whether it's help with design, help with formulation, help with packaging sourcing, the actual packaging of it, receiving your final product. So if you had to come to us with a concept, we'd help you formulate and get it onto shelf. If you have a ready standing product and you want to put better ingredients in, we can source them from an international market or local market, whichever's better. but yeah, essentially it was bridging the gap between where do I go from here, and that's where we sort of come alongside and assist with support. We've also just added a warehousing and distribution leg, so we would warehouse for you and sort of distribute, which streamlines the process, cuts cost. So you wouldn't need to purchase your own warehouse to warehouse stock, especially if you're getting off the ground. If you're housing a small amount of stock and paying those large fees, it can be hard to get out of that hole. So, but it's majorly a passion project. The motive of that is actually to make an impact in the South African market, to get quality stuff out there. So I think a lot of the time people are, I don't want to say burnt, but have a bad connotation towards natural supplementation, either because it didn't work as well as they thought it would, probably because they either didn't take it for long enough. We got to keep in mind, chemical is immediate. Natural is holistic and takes some time, but it's the healthiest way, because you're actually just assisting your body to heal itself and get it into its optimal state of functionality. So we want to counter that. We want to show people that what God's given us is actually meant for the body to function, and we want to bring quality back to the South African audience.
Yeah, no, I love that. So who is your ideal client for Stedico?
For Stedico?
Yeah.
Sure.
So would it be medical professionals? Because, who wants to launch a supplement? Is it existing health and wellness brands that want to enter into the supplement category?
Yeah. All of the above, to be honest. And don't write off the person who's passionate about whatever niche they're in, and that they feel like there's a product that they don't have access to, for instance. Very often that's sort of the client that we take on board. But it's, to answer your question, all of the above. We've implemented a white label system, which makes it a bit more accessible. So for a healthcare professional who doesn't want to lay out initial huge minimum order quantities and things like that, we'll have a white label model where they could purchase smaller quantities and we hold stock just to enter the market. It's all of it falls under the basket of Stedico. We're not picky or fussy about who comes on board. Obviously, it helps when there's a healthcare professional, because they know exactly what they want, with some know-how on it. But we are there to advise with professional help if someone has no idea and they just want a product that helps for X.
I think I love the concept, and the reason being is a few of the medical doctors that we worked with, and obviously a lot of these products come with expiry dates, right? And then minimum quantities. And a lot of them go in blind. They purchase and then they don't have distribution. So I think that becomes a challenge. So again, I think with a solution like this, I'm not sure what the costs are, but like you said, there is a white label option. So again, testing the market, finding out what exactly are your customers looking for before you go fully in. And is that the angle? Because that works for a wide variety. And I think it's obviously entrepreneurs, creators, like you're saying, someone who are, content creators who are in the fitness space. They can actually launch a supplement because they have distribution.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I suppose you can have an idea of how the market would, or people would adapt to it or absorb it or take it on board, whether they would purchase or not. But you only actually know until you've put it into the market. And this makes it more accessible. Without huge costs, without too many barriers to entry, without the potential of stock expiring, because at the end of the day, if stock expires, it's completely written off. It's not even like you can throw the product out and reuse the bottles. Everything's discarded. And if you wanted to continue, then you need to order another batch of stock. So again, we kind of positioning ourselves into an area where we have made mistakes in the past, and we want to stop people from making those mistakes in the future and can advise accordingly.
So I was actually reading a case study. So David Beckham's IM8 is the fastest growing supplement brand. They make $9 million, which is around 180 million rand per month, and they serve about 420,000 customers. So, there's massive opportunity in the supplement space, like we've been chatting. So with the existing health and wellness brands, have you seen any trends for existing, again, health and wellness brands entering the supplement category?
Yeah, very often in South Africa, we follow international trends.
Yeah.
I think America plays a big influence, obviously UK, and then the Australian trends as well.
Yeah.
There's another lady, Jessica Sipal, as well. She was initially wrote health and wellness blogs,
Okay.
and similar sort of concept, and wanted to bring it into the market, supplements that she believed work and she worked and she trusted. Started her brand, and I think it, don't hold me to this, but it was around 2 years since market entry. Her company was valued at 400 million Australian dollars.
Wow. Yeah.
At a high price point. The fact of the matter is, though, that the products worked, and she had a passion behind it, and she had a motive behind it. So I would encourage anyone getting into the space. I don't think necessarily it's sustainable if you're building a business just to follow trends, because there needs to be a motive behind why you're going to push these products. And I think the audience isn't naive enough to see through that. You know, if they can see that you're just wanting to make a quick buck, that eventually it would come to light, you know. So we do follow trends. There's various trends. I think a lot of them are justified, but very often it's not like one trend, because it's booming internationally, doesn't write off a similar ingredient if they have similar efficiencies. And what we need to remember is everyone's body is a different blueprint, you know. Your gut biome is completely unique to you. Even though you and your wife eat the same meal, your gut biome is completely unique. So where one supplement might work for, say, you, we similar ages, potentially similar diets, it might work for you and not necessarily work for me. And then there's various reasons for that potentially. And that's why we started the Wellness Center with diagnostic tools, so we can actually accurately measure and accurately diagnose what's going on within the human body. So very often trends are good to follow. They're justified. So I do believe that it's good to follow them. It's good to keep an eye out on them, but it's also good to check where the source is and how it's trending.
Yeah, and I think it has to be solving a pain point, right? Or a pain.
Exactly.
I think, and if that, and you know, like we spoke about with B Wellness, it was a pain that existed in your home, you know. So that's why you guys came up with a solution. And I think, you know, when you are entering any business, for that matter, it has to be, what problem are you solving? And what are you doing? How do you solve it to your best ability? So let's pivot towards entrepreneurship. It's often called one of the hardest jobs in the world. You've been in the game for about 12 years or so. Like you mentioned, you come from a family that's made up of entrepreneurs. What's that one or the most important thing you've seen? Perhaps from your parents that you are now implemented. What's that one thing that you feel in entrepreneurship is the key?
The key or the crutch, and I think it's kind of the same answer. I think someone who's entrepreneurially driven has either a love and a passion or an ability to identify a need or a gap and then pursue that, right? So it's super exciting, and if you're passionate about it, you'll 10 to 1 make it work. The thing for me is whether it's sustainable, and when I say crutch, I think very often in myself and my 2 business partners, we all 3 on those sort of personality tests tested maximizers. So not trying to fill your basket too much. I think from personal experience, there's been times where we're busy with what we're doing, for instance, and then there's a need and a gap, and it's like guns blazing.
Right.
But if you haven't got all your systems in place initially, that then just becomes a distraction. You know what I mean? So to actually, one of the things I would say is actually, I don't know if you know of the hedgehog principle, but essentially it's find one thing that you can do better than anyone else in the world and stick to that. Everything else becomes a part of that and potentially fills the basket or fills the solution. But as soon as you start veering off that, it could present problems.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an awesome journey, and if anyone's listening here who has an idea and feels like they're entrepreneurial and is doubting whether they should go for it, there's only the time is now.
Yeah.
Like, there's only one way to truly know if you can make it happen or not. And I think the misconception is that business people or entrepreneurs are kind of closed boxes. That was my understanding. I try to figure things out on my own. Whereas I would encourage, say, a new entrepreneur or a young entrepreneur to find a mentor. I think as a business person, you want to pass on what you've learned, and a mentor is great in that. You can learn from their mistakes. They can advise you. They can see your blind spots. They can encourage you. So it's a great thing, even as a business, to have a business mentor, someone who's separate to the business and can identify things you might not be seeing.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And, something that you mentioned there was focus. And, as entrepreneurs, we're always looking for, the next opportunity. But like, even when we looked at our agency, we said, hey, and I told myself and my co-founder that this is a 10-year thing. Like, we're going to push for the next 10 years, and if opportunities come thereafter, we know the systems, the processes, most importantly, the team, right?
Yeah.
We are a service-based business. You need to make sure that you have a strong team. And I think for the next 10 years, all we're doing is just helping other businesses, making sure we're putting the systems, the processes in place.
Awesome.
And, a lot of times we find, and again, being an agency, we work with clients where there's opportunity for us to work more strategically with them. But the challenge that it takes focus from our own business, even though we might understand what they're doing, right? We might understand an aesthetic clinic. We know how to get them clients, as an example, how to develop SOPs, how to put training manuals for their staff. But it doesn't mean I need to be an owner of an aesthetic clinic. So but the financial rewards are there if we do tap into it. But then at times you have to tell yourself no, because I know, and we've been through it, right, where it starts to impact the source that's actually generating the revenue for you. And that's basically what I saw, is that once you start splitting your focus, you'll think that you'll start to make more financial rewards, but in actual fact you don't, because that one thing, if you just kept on going, would be able to double, triple, and the X that you would have received would have been much greater than trying 5 different things.
Yeah, exactly. And I think something you mentioned there is integral, and that's your team, and if the messaging isn't coming across clearly or communicated clearly from the stewards of the business, the team can get confused, and then it can sort of, you lose your culture to some extent, So not saying if a great opportunity presents itself, I'm not saying don't pursue that, but if you're chasing every good opportunity that comes your way, you're going to be torn, and you can only do so much as one person, you've got a limited capacity.
Yeah.
And then I think my idea of a successful entrepreneur isn't someone who's at work for 20 hours of the day. You want to have a holistic lifestyle. You want to have enough time to spend with your family, or to have rest and retreat, or just to be present even for staff and employees if they need you as a mentor, And I think if our basket's very full, we tend to lack in those aspects. It's about finding that balance, which is sometimes tricky.
Yeah. In South Africa, the failure rates within the first 5 years is, I believe it's between 70 to 80%, right? They don't make it within the first 5 years. Globally, that number is around 50%, which obviously tells us that it's much harder to grow a business in South Africa, especially past that 5-year mark. In your experience, is there a most important thing that you should be focusing on in a business?
In South Africa specifically?
In general.
Okay.
As a business owner.
Well, first off, I'd say I think we as South Africans, I'm obviously biased, I'm South African, but we are inherently resilient. And I think very often a business that fails is actually so close. They're just missing the mark on, it could be something as small as pricing, or your communication to your audience, which you guys come in and assist with that, and but at the end of the day, the numbers don't lie. If you're running a business and you're not turning a profit, the business is going to collapse. And that's got to be focused on quite intensely, I believe. And secondary to that is then strategy for growth, because to tap out of the hustling entrepreneurial mindset into a business owner mindset and stewarding a big business, there's quite a bridge between that. And if you're not planning for it and not making sure that the business is turning a profit, inevitably it's going to fail. So yeah, make sure you're turning a profit. Make sure that your culture is translatable and implementable, even if you aren't necessarily a present business owner. I would say is integral. So if you had to step away for 6 months to tap into an international market, your business speaks the same language that you've implemented, you know?
No, I totally agree. And, you know, what you mentioned on growth, I think that's vital to any business. And what we figured, right, especially working with business. So we've worked with just over 100 businesses, understanding business owners, what are they actually going through. And again, the conversation that we have with them is around sales, which is growth, right? Finding alternative sales channels, whether it's through retailers, stockists, direct through your e-commerce store, through clinics, whatever it may be, right? But what we identified was that as a business owner, you should also look for that one constraint in your business. And at times, sales should always be your focus, right? As a business owner, you need to make sure that you're pushing on sales. But constraint could be churn, it could be cash flow, it could be hiring your team. And oftentimes we sit in meetings with business owners, and yes, it's a sales meeting, but when we really diagnose their business and prior to us bringing a client on board, we actually do a recommendation for them. And what we identify is that while we're focusing on sales, there's other areas that you need to work on. So again, a big thing in service-based business is your team, making sure the SOPs are there. You have a process in terms of scripting, when someone calls in, you standardizing that process. So what we figured is that as long as you can generate sales, but if you have high churn or if you're not managing cash flow correctly, your business is going to struggle. So what we've figured out is every client that we bring on board is identifying what that constraint is. So while we're pushing on sales, they are focusing on working on that constraint. That way, the success rate increases, right? Because again, no one wants to work with a client that's not there for a long period of time. So again, I think it's just finding that constraint, and that's what we figured out is, you know, as business owners, we have to figure out that. And at times, just to finish that, at times business owners think that it's a sales problem. And yes, we all need more sales. But when actually the sales come in, it's not a sales thing. It's either your product isn't good enough. You know, people don't purchase the second time. That's a testament that your product isn't good. You have that, you know, you're changing your staff every 3 weeks, meaning that when someone comes in for a treatment, I mean, you guys have B Wellness House. Imagine your customers or clients coming in and they're seeing a new therapist there or a new employee there at every session. Like, you know, it's not going to work. So I think just identifying that constraint is important.
100%. And I think trying to find the right words, but not taking offense to a constraint, you know, as look, by no means do I sit here and claim to have all the answers, but I think very often to step out of ownership role and be able to make a decision that's best for the business. Even if as the owner or the CEO or whatever the case is, you made a decision that's led to that constraint, the longer you're attached to it, the longer that constraint will be there. So the betterment of the business needs to outweigh opinion and ego, I guess. No, that's very good. I love that you guys sort of step in and fill the role of sales, because it provides capacity and it provides a team culture in let's find the constraints and let's fix it. Like, that's what we have for problem solving, you know. It's good.
And in actual fact, so we're launching a guide at the end of this year, and we'll actually have a chat about it offline. So part of it is developing SOPs, and what we figured out was just putting standing operating procedures for your team. Oftentimes, and you can probably, as business owners, as the entrepreneurs, we know we can do things better than anyone else, right? Because it's our business, and that's fair. And as soon as you start hiring and you start handing over tasks, no one can do it as good as me, and because you haven't documented it, or you haven't put the process to actually teach someone how to do it the way you've done it. So you get frustrated, your employees get frustrated, and then it's not a long-term relationship. So part of our guide is we're focusing on SOPs and teaching business owners how to develop this, especially when they're starting to scale. Because when you think of you doubling your sales, you're gonna break things. And how are you gonna fix that? It's by creating these systems. So yeah, that's gonna be quite cool. Let's pivot towards brand. How important is building a brand versus just selling a good product?
I believe it's very important.
Yeah.
I feel like your brand is the part that the audience's trust is attached to. I think it was Steve Jobs that quoted, he worked 15 years on brand alone and the rest followed, right? So by no means do I think it's everything, but it's the initial trigger point to a potential purchase or even interest. If I'm not drawn to something, I'm not even going to look at it in the first place. So I think brand's integrally important, but brand holds a lot of facets. It's not just design. Again, SOPs at some point could fall into your brand, because if someone likes the way a brand looks, they call into the center and the phone's answered in a non-pleasing way, your brand's jeopardized. So I feel like brand is a full picture of how people perceive you. So the answer would be majorly important.
Yeah. And I think with brand, it's definitely more towards building trust and credibility in the market, right? And this, like we spoke about David Beckham, and he's making, 200 million rands a month. Does he have the best supplement? I'm sure there's local players, including B Wellness, that has products that can compete with David Beckham's supplement. But I think he has brand, he has credibility, he looks the part. He looks 35, at his age. So now if he's recommending a product, like, okay, it's the brand, it's the credibility, like it's David Beckham, I trust him. So I think it's definitely an important component. And there's actually a stat where 75% of consumers will keep buying from a brand even if the competitors become trendy. So just building brand, I think it's more longevity, right? And we're having conversations about paid advertising, and paid advertising is quite big because you're pushing towards the sale. But with a lot of our clients, why are we building on paid ads? That's for the sale. Now brand has to be part of your long-term strategy, is because trust and credibility is how it makes even paid advertising much more affordable. And you guys are running ads as well, and it's getting more expensive. So the only way we're able to get our costs down, our customer acquisition costs down, is by building brand, because you don't need as many people to see it to make that conversion, because people know who we are. And vice versa, like even as an agency in the B2B space, we've seen a lot of our best clients have seen our content for at least 8 months plus. And those are the clients who come in, I know exactly what you guys do, help me scale this. And hence, we're creating guides and podcasts like this is so that we can build our brand, provide more free information so that someone can listen to this or read a guide and say, hey, I know exactly the methodologies or the processes or the SOPs that you guys use. It makes it much easier, meaning that when we're spending money on ads, it's not going to cost us a leg and an arm to acquire a customer. And it goes the same for any brand, for that matter.
Agreed, fully.
Yeah.
I love what you're doing. I would actually ask you a question on that in terms of opinion on potentially a startup. How would you target that then? Would you go initial... Obviously, brand becomes part of it. So brand building, cool. So you're at a point where you're now ready to launch, whether it's a supplement or a service, doesn't necessarily matter. How would you make sure that the brand is positioned correctly? Or do you think it's just a time thing?
Yeah, so important question. So I think the business itself is important. If it's a service-based business, like an agency, B2B space, you wouldn't need brand right now. You would need to go find customers, whether you're working with them for free to prove yourself, get a testimonial, and then bring them on as a retainer client. If you're looking in the supplement space, you can't do that, right? Because it's more, you're looking for sales. So in that way, I believe that, partnerships is really important. You have to look at distribution. So brand would be part of who has the audience. So let's look at a supplement brand, right? It's going to be much easier. You need to look at, I'm launching a supplement brand. Do I have an audience or not? I probably have a few thousand followers, not enough for me to get sales. Then you need to look at who within the industry fits that demographic and who owns that audience. So you look at content creators and then start, either building partnerships with them where you're looking at an affiliate model to start generating some revenue. With their partnership will allow you to start maybe perhaps speaking to retailers because now you're using influence. And, with retailers, as long as you hold attention, which is my next point, but as long as you have attention, they want to stock your product, right? And these big guys as well, like as soon as they see you have some followers, you can generate foot traffic for them so that these guys can make multiple purchases. They want to bring you on board, but that won't happen until you have some sort of online presence. So I would say if you don't own brand, if you don't have the resources to run paid ads, which is definitely a way to go, especially in the supplement space, you would need to partner with someone because that's where trust and credibility, especially in supplements. Like if I'm a startup, I have a few hundred followers, trying to promote a supplement, it's not going to work. You need to have familiar faces there. So definitely in the supplement space, I would definitely go the route of partnerships, affiliate models, even bringing in some of these content creators. And, we're going to chat about the attention economy, but bringing in these, if you're a startup, bringing in these influencers that fit within your brand and even giving them some equity there, saying that, or profit sharing, not even equity, some profit sharing, allowing them and leverage their audience to start, building your brand. That would definitely be a route I would go, and that would form part of brand, and then using some profits from there to run some paid ads to get the sale.
That's good. I like it.
Yeah, but the use cases, for every brand, there's different use cases, and then let's head over to attention economy. We've seen a massive shift in creator-led brands. Mr. Beast, the Kardashians. I'm not sure if you've seen Kourtney Kardashian recently launched a supplement brand. I think it's called Lemmy or something like that. Stephen Bartlett, we spoke about him. I think his brand is worth $500 million. I think that's what it was valued at. We have Rhode, beauty brand, just sold for around $1 billion. It seems like the new rule is whoever can acquire and maintain attention wins. So do you see B Wellness as a media company just as much as a product company?
Sure. Solid question.
Yeah.
And I think because we have access to everything basically now, people follow people.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you asked that. We're actually in the process of making a shift and I guess telling our story more, not even as owners, as affiliates, as even our wives and our moms and our audience and clients that we've walked the road with. So there is definitely a shift towards that. And I think if you're not making that shift, you're going to fall behind because, like you say, it's holding their attention and then being creative within that and being unique in that space. But yeah, currently the shift's being made. I think we're not necessarily, perhaps with the help of Live Space, we're going to get there. But people follow people and creator-led stories. I mean, we've seen it time and time again now that even people that aren't necessarily as famous as the Kardashians or the David Beckhams that are starting smaller, but it's something that people want to follow. They want to be a part of your process. How did you get it from A to B? What did you do when, in our case, you found an ingredient that wasn't quite as good? Like, how did you get from that ingredient to what you've got in there now? Like, what was the process like? People want to follow it, it's like, and then they feel a part of you. They're a part of your story and vice versa. You're essentially helping each other get to the goal of the ultimate vision for the business. So I love what you're saying. I think it's integral for businesses now to focus more on content and media and opening up their business to their audience.
Yeah. And actually, this media company actually came from, I'm not sure if you follow Patrick Bet-David, right? And he spoke about building a media company and that all brands now need to be focusing on that. Is we spoke about it. You can have the best product or service, and if no one actually knows about it and actually trusts you, you're not going to make the sale and you're not going to grow. So, yeah. Uh, just to pivot onto a business model that's on everyone's mind, the membership or subscription model, right? I know B Wellness has one. It's the most difficult to get right. Now we've seen trends in the subscription model. I believe it's 8 out of 10 adults have at least one subscription. Prior, it was just gym membership. Now we have Netflix, streaming, and there's memberships for a lot of things. Maybe tell me a bit about B Wellness. How does your membership model works?
So initially our standpoint was we did a major upgrade to our products,
Okay.
which increased costs. But we felt like, number one, how would the market adjust to it? And also our clients that have been walking a road with us, we didn't want to give them this massive price hike and then have potential for them not being able to continue walking the road with us. So the initial point was, as a member, free of charge, you would get a discount on each product. It was quite a drastic discount. So we pursued that, and the uptake's been quite good. I think for us, let me put it this way, I think the constraint and why the subscription/membership model is harder to tap into is because people's skeptical mind on whether you want them hooked for the money every month or if you actually want to make a difference. For us, it's to have the people's ear, to be able to educate them, to provide services, to provide the discounts, to essentially get feedback from them about not only how's the product working, what are your other struggles, where can we help, and I think if someone's part of your community, that becomes easier to do. So that's our vision for it. Whether we've implemented it correctly, it's very new, so we're still proceeding with that. That being said, with B Wellness House, the vision is to scale nationally. And that's a more accessible subscription model, or membership model, where you would pay your monthly subscription and have access to all the services and access to the social area, and potentially, if they wanted to add supplements to that membership, they could do that as well. So we're still figuring that out, and I think in South Africa, the market's slightly smaller than your US markets, so it's I think it makes it a little bit more challenging. But like you said, once your brand's established and your trust in the market is justified by what you're giving your audience, then the barrier to entry with the membership model is a lot easier.
And I think, when you're looking at a membership or subscription model for B Wellness, over and above, getting the feedback for clients, which is just as important, I think it's the consistency, right? No one is going to take your product for 2 months and then the problem, you need to maintain that. So I think with subscription, similar to a gym membership, and if you're on Vitality, it's always sending you reminders, hey, you need to make sure you're clocking in. It's the same thing with subscription. So I think it's the way people need to perceive it. It has grown by 435%, so it's year-over-year growth. 1.5 trillion market cap by the end of 2025. Again, a lot of that sits out of South Africa, but I do see trends where a lot of more businesses are tapping into it, and I think it's more financially it makes more sense to get that discount, plus the benefits that come with it. And, it's something that we'll actually chat about. But even when you're developing a membership or subscription model, it's about stacking that value, right? And you guys have done it. I know you didn't mention it, but there's a few line items there. But it's stacking that value and making sure that the client is getting, the most, but then it also helps you from predictable revenue, right? If you know that X amount, every month you have X amount of subscription going out, it helps you invest in your growth, but more importantly in your product, so that you can, provide better versions of it in the near future.
Exactly.
Okay, so as we head towards a conclusion, I know that, any business owner and entrepreneur is focused on growth, especially as we head into 2026. How important is it for you, or even entrepreneurs or business owners for that matter, to have a clear plan and have a vision for their business as they head into 2026?
I think it's integral. I think whether you an individual owner or entrepreneur, I would encourage you to sit again with a mentor or somebody to advise you on that, or if you're part of an exco, to establish that vision and that goal. I would, one of our mentors calls it I think it's a BF, anyways, a big fat hairy goal that is like out there, that's actually the goal, but maybe not as realistic, and then you work backwards from that. But in terms of clearly defining targets, clearly defining where you want to be, because that needs to be communicated to your team essentially and to your audience, you know. So I think it's definitely important. And when you start getting into the nitty-gritties of that, it opens up sort of facets in like predictions for the market or things you would otherwise not have looked at, or even opens doors into, say, for instance, us, a retail sector that we wouldn't have considered before, but for 2026 it could work. That's just a layman example, but I think it's majorly important, especially in the country. And I think we somewhat have a social responsibility as business owners in South Africa, because our economy might not be as good as it should be or whatever, but ultimately if businesses are thriving, people are thriving. So we as business owners and business people have the potential to shift things, you know, and I think if everyone has somewhat an aligned vision of tackling that and moving forward, it could really benefit everyone in the country. So if any other business owners are watching, I'd like to encourage them to reach out and see actually how we can assist each other as business owners and turn the economy for the better, and just make sure our clients' feet are washed in some sense, you know. But I think planning's majorly important, and then communicating that well to your team.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, Steve. So the last question, a personal one. I know you have a 4.5-month-old son.
Yeah.
So when he's watching this episode 15, 20 years from now, what's that one piece of advice you'd want to leave him with?
Very good question. Yeah, what a journey, man. It's opens up a whole new world of love that you haven't experienced. You would know. But I think it would be find your passion and pursue it. With, like I said earlier in the podcast, that motive, that driving factor, that passion, that unique gift set that you've been given as an individual, that's where you thrive. You know, you want to get to the end of your day feeling energized. I think the best way to recognize that is just to introspect and see where you feel like you're being drained and where you feel like you're being energized. That's where your passion lies, and follow that. And you're capable of anything you actually want to pursue. And don't believe discouragement and outside lies, you know. Remain humble, but don't let people get you down. You can do what you want to pursue.
No, that's amazing. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks for the time.
I think that's it from our side. It was a pleasure having you, and we're definitely going to do this again. There's
Please.
a lot more that we have to chat about.
100%.
But thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure, bud.
Right.